Well, howdy, howdy, folks. Thanks for all joining us here. Another beautiful day out here in Franklin, Tennessee, just outside Nashville, where apparently everyone's moving. I just got word that another major corporation in California that I follow is on their way out here. So, welcome to the town. Apparently we live in heavy metal heaven. We have Bruce Dickinson. We have half of Metallica. We've got half, it seems like we've got half of Motley Crue and so forth. Vince Neil, etc., got given a lift by the local firefighters when his car broke down the other day. So, yeah, it's a lovely place in the neighborhood. And if you guys are moving out here as well, I will be the least surprised person on the planet. Anyway, thanks for joining us here. I think we've got things relatively well set up. I'm hoping to get through a lot of stuff today. Strangely enough, I don't. I have topics to talk about. I don't have a lot of specific stuff, but I do want to get through a lot of it. Just want to take just a moment to reach into the comments here and make sure the chat's working. Greg says, hi from sunny New Jersey. How's everyone doing? Zandu, hi from Seattle. Have not seen the sun in days from all the smoke. Good grief. Man, I am hearing such stories about everyone on the West Coast. It's just nuts. My kid sent me a picture of, it looked like Blade Runner 2049. It was just this orange sky out his window, and my kid, being my kid, decided that he's going to convince me he wasn't faking the whole thing. Because I mean, he works for NVIDIA. He could fake anything he wanted to on a graphic card, but he actually took a white color balancing card and put it up against his monitor just to prove that the white levels in the picture were accurate, and then he showed this tangerine sky out his window. I hear it's better out there now, but man, if you guys are on the West Coast, good luck. I hope it rains soon. I don't know what to hope at this point, but I hope it gets better. Let's see here. Aura has a question about linking issues from one title to another title. Let's get to that one. That's a great question. I want to note that one for a little later. But let's hit that. Let's see here. Brian Gwinner says hi. Greg Sandoval from Northern Cal, and it says the sun is clear for a while. All right. And once again, smoky in Portland and Vancouver. All right. Okay. So let's get to it. If I look frazzled, I have to be honest, I had this brilliant idea. I was going to do the thing that we meant to do when we started doing these videos. I was going to excerpt some of the more popular questions out. I was going to make little 2 and 3 minute tip videos. And it was going to be really easy because all I had to do, I've already covered the material, right? All I got to do is tighten it up a little bit. Get everything ready, get my own titles rolling on the graphics like we've just seen right here. And in theory, I should be able to knock these suckers out like you can't believe. So I started this on September 11th. I wake up, I'm feeling, well rested, and I'm ready to take it all on, clear the decks, kick the, family out of the house, and just, get ready to start shooting. And you go through, if you guys have ever recorded an answering machine tape, you know exactly what happened. I got 10 seconds of the first one, and then you glurble over your words for the first time. And then, no problem, shake it off. And then you do it, and you get 20 seconds in, and you glurble over your words the next time. And then suddenly this hellish haze sits in your entire life, which is suddenly you're on take 32 on the whole thing. And you finally, okay, I got the take. It all worked. It's like playing a really difficult level in a jumper video game where, like, you have to jump, triple jump over the 3 mushrooms, avoid the razor wire and the missile guy and whatever else. You eventually get to the end of the level. At that point, though, I looked at the tape, and you discover that, the focus was ever so slightly off the entire time. Great, no problem. I shake it off, do the same thing again. Half an hour later, you've got another usable take. You look at that one, and as you're starting to edit it, thinking, all I gotta do is trim in the first 4 seconds when I'm just kind of coming up to speed, and trim out the last 2 seconds after it's all done, and we're done, right? And then you realize, hey, what's all that camera information at the bottom of the film, of the frame here, with all the ISO level and stuff like that? I'm like, don't tell me that's been on this whole thing the whole time. And by the way, none of you guys told me that thing was on all of last week's podcast as well, because my new camera apparently took it upon itself to output all that stuff, not on the monitor that I'm watching, but only on the HDMI out. Excellent. So, found that setting eventually. Lather, rinse, repeat. I'm suddenly on take like jillion, and I got it, and you kind of playing your own editor on these things, and you're sitting there, well, how am I doing? Did I get through it? Did I mumble over too many words? Did I do the switching of the video stuff right? You're saying, it was all good. You got it. And so I'm staring at the playback on it, and I've got a look on my face that looks like this. Hello. Welcome to this tip video. you know, that was like the opening of take like bajillion and 6. So I obviously had to, you know, shake it off, have a beer, go away, pet a dog, whatever the heck you had to do, but, you know, shake it off and try to come back later. In the end, you know, I mentioned to my guys on the staff meeting, like, oh, hey, I did that tip video, and by the way, it has the ugliest thumbnail you have ever seen, because by the time I finally got it in the can, I was well beyond caring about niceties like, I don't know, whether or not the thumbnail would make your eyes bleed, and so I just kind of put together the first thing that I could actually read and at all, you know, over the background and shoved it out there, because there's no way I was going to bed on September 11th without this thing in the can and off my life. So discussed it at staff meeting the next, you know, later on. They're like, "Yeah, Pete, you seem really tired on that video." I was like, "Yeah, I'll bet I did." So anyway, fast forward a couple days, and I decide, hey, all right, bring up the energy level. I'm gonna learn some things from that whole experience, and I'm gonna do one on duplicating comic books, which you might have seen posted to the site about an hour ago. And I'll be honest, I thought the take was okay. You saw take bajillion and one once again, because same thing happened again. You know, you got, it's like you get 3 times in, you're like, okay, great, got it. That was a take. That was excellent. And then you realize, oh, the camera decided to pull focus on the robot way behind me, and the entire thing was blurred out as far as I'm concerned. Okay, no problem. Shake it up. Once again, and that's a take, and someone clatters a dish downstairs, or a dog barks, or a door slams, or, oh my goodness gracious. So I finally got the thing done after working out all day long to do a 3-minute video. So I have a newfound respect for you know, for folks who do acting for a living, and I'm really reconsidering the wisdom of this let's do it all in one take and do it live kind of discipline I set out for myself. But I feel like I am learning the trade a little bit. You know, I for instance, one thing that I've learned is the eye line, you know, between me and the camera. I'm trying very hard to look straight into the camera. I kind of, you know, put my chair up a little bit more, so the camera, which has to peer over my monitors, that's actually why you're getting this weird eye line that you've got. Is there's a camera on, it's called a C-stand. It's basically a long metal arm that's positioned right on the edge of my 2 giant 24-inch monitors or 27-inch monitors on my desk, and it's focused in right on me. You know, I'm trying to keep that as close as possible. The problem is, because the whole thing's actually pretty close, and I need to see the monitor that's right above the camera to know whether I've switched to the right monitor or do anything like that. Is I often look very shifty because I'm looking around like this a lot. So I'm trying to avoid that a lot as I'm going. And one thing that I found I helped, and this is a serious acting tip. I'll see if I can show this to you. I've glued a visual aid to the bottom of the camera. It is a guitar pick, which I put at the bottom of the camera. It's hanging by a piece of tape from the other side of the thing, and it gives me something to focus on, which isn't like the vast unseeing eye of the camera, and isn't the big blinky picture of myself that's right above the camera, which between those two things makes me want to dazzle myself constantly. Anyway, after take like 30 this morning, I decided, because I could feel that serial killer thing start to creep into the video again, even without looking at the playback, I could tell that it was like, hi, here's the quick tip, and nobody wants to watch that. So I decided I needed some encouragement, and the encouragement was I took out a Sharpie and wrote a little smiley face on the monitor, and honestly, I gotta say that helped. I don't know, any professional actors out in the audience want to give me some tips on this whole thing, or just say give it up and hire a real actor? Let me know. I'm all ears at this point, because man, there's got to be an easier way to do this stuff. All right, that's the tip video stuff. That being said, all right, enough whining about my life. I do want to say, the last tip video that I really want to make right away is I want to make one that covers the selection stuff we talked about in the last live stream, because we threw in a new feature in ComicBase where if you go ahead and you take any selection from any of the grids or albums and things like that and immediately go to print, that becomes the basis for whatever report or labels or anything else that you're printing just automatically. And so that's kind of neat, because it also lets you do these really involved finds to figure out what you want on the report, and then print from there, and it takes it and it uses as the basis of your report. And also, because we extended the ability of those selections to work to go against titles, it now lets you do some things, and this is only applies to the very latest version of ComicBase. It's like build 38 33 or something. Look at the top of the comicbase.com website and you'll see what the latest build is. You need the latest build, not even like the official build. You need the latest like interim build to have this feature work. But if you have it, you can do a find on things like show me all my DC titles and then do a collection report based on the DC titles. So you can do an issue level report based on a selection you made of titles. And so that's pretty cool. So I hope you guys enjoy that, and I want to do a tip video to kind of broadcast that out to the world a little bit more widely, because it's a hack, I'll admit it, but it's a cool hack, and I want to do that. But what videos do you guys want to see which explain topics of interest to you guys? And I think the format, I really want to keep it to like 3 minutes and under. Is just a really simple thing that you could watch just casually, because these live streams, I admit, I love that you guys are hanging out here, but it's a commitment in terms of time, or maybe it's not, because a lot of times I'll watch live streams when I've got something else going on in life, and I just need to keep my brain alive while I'm doing other things, so you can sort of take in all the information, with your auditory sense, and your visual sense can be somewhere else. That's how I do a lot of my live stream podcast type stuff. Maybe you guys do the same thing, I don't know. But judging from the chat, at least a lot of you are very active, so I appreciate that. But tell me, if you would, in the chat, what sort of live stream topics, or not live stream, but tip topics you guys would like to see me address. And I'd really like to hit as many of those as I can, ideally on something less than like the 30th take. So that's about it. Let's go ahead here. And let's see, other cool stuff going on. Rob Weiner says, even Toledo, the seeing the haze. Mike says, I can see the disk of the sun for the first time. Nothing vast interests the life of mortals without a curse. Oro, you're getting all philosophical on me here. And Andre said, I did not see anything on your video last week. Well, maybe it'd be a good time to pull it out into a separate thing. An excuse to have beer. Absolutely. All right, so let's see what else we got going on here. Just scan the last podcast, didn't see anything out of the ordinary. Yeah, honestly, I didn't see it at all. I think what we're talking about here is the information stuff. It's right down at the bottom. I didn't see it. I'm watching the playback the whole time. And I didn't see it all because it's obscured. It's beneath, like, where the play controls are on the screen itself. And so once you've kicked it off, and once you like let it go for a couple seconds so the play controls on your player fade out, then you see that I've been broadcasting my camera's time information, everything the whole time. So I don't want to do that again. So I hope we fixed it. Anyway. Yeah, and Greg says, after recording a crap ton of lectures last semester, I feel for you. Thank you so much. Yeah, and comic dude's often shifty, yes. Practice. Yes, that is so freaking true. Like I say, it's really easy to take shots at actors because, let's face it, they're really annoying sometimes. And at the same time, there is such a craft to doing it, what they do well, just being able to walk on stage, knock it out, come across with any kind of sincerity and emotion, and have that come across on the camera. It's like, even when I'm feeling sincere and emotional, I can't manage it half the time. So if you can make that happen for you, respect. Film can rush an arc shot in one take, and it's an hour and a half long. Yeah, I'll bet it is one take and an hour and a half long, but I'll bet you it took a hell of a lot longer than an hour and a half to do that take. Anyway. Yes, video is different. Know your lines, get a real studio. Yeah, all that and more. And say one continuous take. Absolutely. Okay, so let's move on. Other things I want to talk about. So I want to give a quick plug here, and these are just topics. So I'm going to judge how long I want to stay on a lot of these ones by your comments. If you guys are interested, I will talk more on them to the extent I can. If not, I will move the heck on. So let me go to my macros here, and all right, show graphics. So first thing I want to show is this guy right here. Help me publish Surf Sumo. ComicBase customer Mitch Sheely and also comic creator, is back at it. He's launching a Kickstarter to fund his latest comic publishing effort. He asked me to pimp it on the blog. I did not actually see the Kickstarter live as I looked for this one, but if not, it's coming up very shortly. If you enjoyed Surf Sumo, or if you just like helping independent comic creators, definitely encourage you to consider it and have a look at what the whole thing is. It is a fun comic book, and I hope the new one is just as fun as the old one. So yeah, anyway, have a look at it. It should be fun. All right, moving on. Let's see. Oh, so the thing you guys are not seeing as you're seeing this right now is you guys are missing the PS5 introduction. we have entered the time of the year where everybody tries to get their game consoles out. And the PS5 has been playing this, honestly, it's been kind of a nasty little baiting game with Xbox for at least 3 or 4 generations of console now, where the PS3, the PS2 guys came up, so Xbox comes out, and they wait until the Xbox has been announced. It's the big next-gen console from Microsoft. They wait and say what that's going to cost and everything else. And then PS2 waits until after that time, goes up and gives like a 10-second announcement at their whole thing, which just they say, well, what the Xbox cost? Yeah, we're $100 less. And they just set their pricing based entirely on that. They repeat it again with the PS3. They repeat it again with the PS4. And finally, they are probably doing the same thing right now with the PS5. I was tuning into, so the new Xbox is called Xbox Series X, which that'll be a handful to try to keep straight. That one looks like this. I'll get into that one in just a moment. But they been leaking technical details on the Xbox Series X for a little while, but they have not, until just this last week, started talking about the price. So now PS5 also been leaking technical details and some really, really sexy looking tech demos on it for a while. But ideally right now they're telling us the when and the how much. The when is sort of loosely going to be this holiday. The how much is, if you guys have heard, while we were talking here, let me know in the chat. I'd love to pass that on. But like I say, if they sat there, waited to see what the Xbox did, and then undercut them by 50 or $100, it would be the least surprising thing that has ever happened. Because that is just absolutely seems to be the game with the PlayStation guys, if they possibly can. So let's talk a little bit about these, these consoles. 2 reasons for this. One is, look, a lot of us are gamers as well, and we dig comics, we dig computers, we dig games. But also, I think it's just some really interesting stuff just about the tech and where it's going. So let's have a look at those models one more time here. All right, so here's the actually, let's go to the Xbox One here. All right, so the one on the right is called the Xbox One Series X S, if I have all the modifiers in the correct order. Xbox is easily the most confusing naming standards for naming anything. The current generation one is, for instance, is called the Xbox One X. The new one, which is the one on the left there, is called the Xbox One Series X. And I think X. And if you search for the one and you get the wrong one, you will know why. But anyway, so the one on the right there, it looks to me like a large white graphics card. Not very far from what it is. The rounded area there is just a large cooling surface, probably with a big fan behind it. Lots of graphic-y goodness behind this one. Lots of teraflops. I think it's 4 teraflops processing on the S one, and I think 12 on the X to the left of it. Largely, what it kind of breaks down to is: are you going to be driving a 4K TV off of this one or not? Because if you want to do full-on 4K gaming, then you're looking at the one on the left, the big, the big monolithic one, just to the left there. Price points on these are $299 for the one on the right and $499 for the one on the left. The one on the left is just stupid powerful. The one on the right is probably more than enough for almost everyone. But you know what the one on the left has got that the one on the right doesn't? A Blu-ray drive. So both consoles, having dipped their feet into it, now are gone fully into the idea that you can absolutely be running a game console without ever having the ability to stick physical media into it. That everything you're going to be doing in your life is digital. So you'll be buying it off their store, obviously at full price for or at least for whatever price the Microsoft Store will give you. Certainly not a third party. You're not going to be buying it used at GameStop and sticking a disc in, at least not to any of the consoles on the right there. And also, you clearly won't be reselling your games. Now, that obviously denotes a much more lucrative royalty stream if you're doing it that way. But it comes with a cost of a certain amount of choice on your side of things. Now, the one on the left, it will take Blu-ray movies. It doubles as a media player for you, just like the current Xbox Ones do. But you know, you're going to pay a couple $100 more for the privilege. It does run faster, and it's got a more powerful graphic card. But beyond that, though, both of them will play the same game, so that's pretty interesting. Now let's look at the other side of the house on this one. For the PS5, and granted, I'm yapping here, so I don't know what they're going to announce in terms of the tech specs and the rest of it. And on this one, hopefully I'll catch up on this as soon as we're off the air. But very interesting to me that the one on the right, digital edition, exactly the same breakdown we saw on the Xbox. So for the first time, both consoles, both major consoles on the whole thing, are absolutely embracing the idea that there is no physical media that feeds them, that only on kind of like the upper end version do you even have the option of playing a movie or sticking a disc in to get your stuff. I gotta think GameStop and anyone who deals in used media is hating this right now, because their entire business model is starting to get completely shot out from under them. I don't know how many Funko Pops they can move to kind of fill the hole that this is going to be leaving with them, because without being able to sell you a next-gen game title directly on their site, I kind of wonder if GameStop is going to be around all that much longer as a physical store. So, that would be my worry if I were in their shoes right now. For the rest of us, look, it's, on one hand, look, discs never go wrong. Yeah, I mean, discs do go wrong, but downloads, you can, so far, pretty much, get them anytime you want. You don't need to worry about scratches on the disc. You don't need to worry about all sorts of other things. They will absolutely be tied to you and your license. They will not be something you can sell used or give to a friend or anything else like that. So, a little less flexibility on the user end of things. And I guess a little bit of a question of what happens if a particular game, movie, other digital asset becomes, let's just say, out of license. There have been different ones. I believe Alan Wake at one point just vanished from the Xbox store. I think I'm getting the title right. Where things you own, you better have downloaded them before, because for a period of time you are no longer to download them again. So it's not unheard of for these things to just kind of go away on you after a while. I don't know of any instances. I do know ones where like Kindle has actually removed books you've bought from your Kindle, and I want to believe that also is true of the Apple bookstore. So there have definitely been times when like they take things off your device for you and send you a refund, and you're not allowed to read this book anymore. I don't personally know of any instances where that's been done with a game or a movie yet, but given the current hysteria on all things social justice-y, what happens when you somehow manage to buy a copy of Blazing Saddles or Gone with the Wind, or somehow you find a copy of Song of the South or something? I would not be at all surprised to hear that those things got I'm sorry, that's out of license now, and they hopefully issue a credit to your account, but your movie goes away. I don't know. I gotta say, guys, I like physical media, or at least as a backup. At the very least, I would want an ironclad ability to download it and run it on my machine and preserve my copy of it without having to check in with the license on the media server in order to even load the thing. Now, I'm not going to be a hypocrite on this one. There are things in ComicBase where, for instance, once your subscription goes out of date, there are things that you can't do with the program anymore. You can't download updates is the big one, right? But the basic program, we said, will run forever, and it runs forever as long as you own it. We have so far, anything that we've ever put on a server has always been gettable again from that same server. As you start pushing these 50 gigabyte disk images and things like that, is that an eternal promise that everyone will make? Oh, I don't know. I think we'll keep it up as long as we can, but yeah, I don't know. I gotta say, I do like having the ability to at least have a clean copy of anything I own in digital format that nobody else gets to control whether I get to load it or not. It's a concern. What do you guys think? Please post your comments in the chat. All right, so let me just take a quick look to the chat. Let's see. Pete, you put some badges that when you use something in the software. I have 8 missing. Can you tip them how to get them all? Oh, that's a great question. Sorry. Let me switch the keying back and put that in there. Yes, all the badges do exist. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, this is a game stolen from, it's an idea stolen from video games, where if you do something cool in the software, we just give you, a little reward saying, hey, you've got the writer badge because you've written a description and gotten it accepted by us. You've got the contributor badge because you sent us a picture or something like that. We have a whole series of badges based on having certain numbers of books in your collection. So if you haven't checked your ComicBase stats under F12, do it at some point. And if suddenly you've gained 5 badges just for having checked your collection stats, because that's the first time the program will actually realize, let's have a look at how many books this guy has and give him any badges he's missing. That's a thing. Yeah, it'd be worth doing a special or that actually might be a fun one to do, just of like what all the secret badges are in ComicBase. And honestly, we should probably do some more, because we've changed the program a lot since those days. But yeah, I'd say at least half the badges have to do with trying out different program features, posting something for sale on Atomic Avenue, checking for sales, doing contributions. And by the way, one of the rarest badges, I think there's only like 5 people who've ever gotten it, is called the Commander Shepard Award. It's actually named after a user called Barry Shepard, who was the first person to send us 200,000 pictures and contributions, and none of us could even believe this. It was like, you got to be kidding me. It's the only gold level badge in the whole program. It plays a special sound effect when you win it. But it's if I recall, it's our little newspaper boy just doing this, and it's called the Commander Shepard Award. So anyway, Barry, that one's for you. That said, he's not the #1 guy anymore, so maybe we need to rename it. Anyway, so that's a few of them. But yeah, it'd be great to do a show on all the other weird little Easter eggy badges and things like that in the program. All right, so and other folks were interested in this as well. Okay. Let's see. Tip question: change location box for multiple titles at once. Absolutely. Actually, let me show you this one real quickly. Let me see if I can do this. Let's see if I can get this real quickly. All right. So this is kind of like an oldie but a goodie in terms of the sorts of things you want to do. Let me just whip around a couple of things to kind of set this one up. So, all right, if you want to have the idea of a location or a box or something like that, you have to use your custom fields, and this would be in ComicBase Pro or so forth. So, all right, in this database, yes, I have set custom field 1 to be a box number. Hopefully you guys can all see that one. All right, and so now let's go ahead and let's make sure this database is set so that I'm showing my box number, because that will be very, very helpful to do. All right, so let's go and scroll down in my settings, and yep, I've got box number showing, but I'm going to make this a little bit easier to see right now. I'm going to move that up a bit. All right, let's see where that goes. A little more just so it gets on the screen. Cover artist, editor, anchor. Okay, all right. Box number's starting to work its way over. I'll put it right there. Okay, there we go. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see that box number is right there. All right. So a couple ways you can go on this one. So what basically is going to happen is you're going to wind up selecting a whole bunch of things. And this is, if you guys haven't seen the selection video I put out a couple days ago, look for something with an eye-bleeding title as far as, the graphics on the thumbnail, and you'll be at the right video. But it's called Selection Secrets. So basically, I'm just dragging out a bunch that I'm interested in. I'm holding down the Control key to say, yeah, I don't want that one, I don't want that one. But here I got 4 or 5 that that I want to change the box number for. All right, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to use the quick change command. I'll do it from the menu so it's a little easier to see. And so there it is. Give me just a second. Whoops. What did I just do? Sorry about that, guys. This is me launching things on the wrong screen. So give me a second to get things back. What you guys may or maybe not be able to see is I've got about 3 monitors working here, and not all of them are set up right. So give me a moment. All right, so let's just do this. All right, so I got a bunch over here. I'm going to go up under here, and I'm going to say quick change the following items. And I am goofing something up. Sorry guys, I'm not going to show this to you right now because unfortunately you caught me running experimental software again, and so it's not doing what it's supposed to do. So I am going to bounce out of here. I will describe the process, but I will not show it to you, which is really, really lame of me. So let me go ahead and do that. Once again, moving this thing onto the right screen. But what you're going to do is highlight the things you're interested in. You're going to use the quick change command, and you're going to set box number to be whatever you want it to be. Now, this is handy, but where it's super duper duper handy is where you do this in conjunction with a adding books to your collection by add by barcode. So if you say add by barcode, and let me go ahead, nope, darn it, I cleared the decks again here, so I have no comic books around me. I'd take that back. I've got a couple right here. Let's see. Of course, I had to pick one with English non-standard barcode, so I'm 175212. Let's see if this one's even in there. No, sorry. These are the ones that have not been entered into the database yet, so they're not going to come up. My apologies, gentlemen. Let me try this alternate one here. 977-205-4-373-508-50. Nope, not yet. So, alright. Bad demo, but the whole point is when you're adding your collection in through here, make sure you click the display items after saving, because then what will happen is once you've added them into your collection, you'll also see a list of everything you added. At that point, highlight all the ones you just added, select all, quick change, set the box number, done, and you're good to go. So that's kind of the whole deal. Worst demo ever, but I will do better in the future. So, alright, let's go back to this. John P says the Xboxes look boring. Well, they definitely look monolithic. I mean, if you like 2001, that will do it. All right, Chris gives us the news here. It says the PlayStation 5 costs $499 when it launches on November 12th, alongside the $399 digital edition. Oh my God! This means that for the first time in their entire console history, Microsoft wound up going below Xbox in terms of the price point at launch. So they did them in, because Xbox, the Series S, is only coming in at $299. So this will be an interesting Christmas. Now, I'm going to say, I'm going to wait personally to see what the bundle deals look like, because typically, if you can get, the console along with it, like a controller and like some game you've been lusting after, if you can get that whole thing for an extra $50 or something, that's typically how I will buy my next-gen console. Either that or some game I cannot live without will be exclusive on the one console or the other, at which point then the Bickford household acquires another set of HDMI cables and another set of consoles cramming underneath our entertainment center, which I will spend way too little time playing. But anyway, that's typically how I will roll on the whole thing, is wait for the software to see what happens. But anyway, it should be a good Christmas for folks if you're looking for something new to do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I look forward to seeing the tech demos, because it was the new version of I want to say Unreal Engine. They were demoing. It almost looked like a render of, it was like a Tomb Raider style character, but they were doing in real time what, for all the world, other than the character models themselves looking a little hinky, for all the world it looked like a movie. It was just breathtaking, and so that was just something I really look forward to seeing, stuff like that in the game, because let's face it, eye candy is cool. All right. Let's see, PS5. Mike says he is all in. All right. John P says, will be any backwards compatibility. Really interesting to know, because the Xbox One platform tends to be completely backward capable, as well as there's a great many things that you can run across both your Xbox, your PC, and any other thing that runs Windows. It really, you can write a universal app that runs on everything, and that's just glorious when that works. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. All right. Greg says, hey, Chris Evans, back. Good to see you after the Instagram. I don't even know what that is, man. All right. So let's see here. What I miss. Let's see. There's some not safe for work stuff. Excellent. Okay. Lots of bad jokes, and we're taking shots at Chris now. All right. Moving on. Okay. So other things that I wanted to hit in today's broadcast. Okay, so we talked about the PS5, we talked about the Xbox One Series X. Another big tech announcement this week is Apple rolled out all their stuff for the fall. So they introduced a bunch of new iPads, which I gotta admit, kind of a snoozer for me, and some new Mackie type things. OS 14 will be coming out. If you guys can tell me what's new and cool about it in a way that makes me care, well, it'd be interesting to know. Apple did not manage that trick in all the time they're doing it. But the one thing I thought that was kind of cool was the Apple Watch. Now, I, at the moment, wear no watch. I typically have like a nice, looking one that my wife bought me, but unfortunately it broke and so forth. And so I'm currently a watch list type of guy. That said, I think most people these days are using their phone as their watch, with the exception of the folks who've turned to smartwatches. I have not been one of those folks so far because I haven't really figured out what I need to do that involves me, looking at it like this on my wrist as opposed to just picking up my phone and looking at it. Some people use it for notifications. I've seen a lot of folks have good success when like phone calls were coming in, where it would kind of give them a heads up on what the whole thing was, so they could kind of glance over it without interrupting, whoever it was they were talking to. A lot of people use it for fitness tracking, which, if you got a Fitbit, that's kind of six of one, half of the other type of proposition, I think. Apple's new thing that they did was they added a pulse oximeter capability to the whole thing, which seems like kind of a slowish pulse ox, but it is the first time that it made me think, hey, that might be a good thing to get for my dad. But anyway, any of the time that these platforms start taking hold, and I think at this point it's safe to say the Apple Watch has taken hold. I had some real doubts when it came out as to whether this thing was going to be anything at all. But there's enough people I've seen in real life who have smart watches that it does make me wonder, is there an angle for us to explore in a way that will be useful and meaningful? I would like to think, I'd be interested in any applications you've got for the entire ComicBase ecosystem that are more interesting than just, I got a text message on my watch. If so, then I'm kind of like, who cares? But if you've got something better than that, that might be really interesting for a watch, send your ideas my way. Because I am interested in what could be done with that. There's a couple of platforms we work with. One of them is called Xamarin, which lets us deploy towards both Android devices and to iOS devices, and they do let us deploy towards watch devices in a way that doesn't make it so we have to manage like 20 different code bases. But if you guys have an application that would be like just bitching on the watch, let me know. I'm open to ideas on this one, and it'd be cool if we could get some ideas going. All right, let's see here. All right, so next question. We got a call or a suggestion from a user asking about PDC files. Do any of you guys know what these are? Because honestly, this was news to me. As I understand it, they are basically PDF files that are encrypted with a password, so that you can sell protected content with them. Someone mentioned the Overstreet Price Guide might be being distributed this way. This is an issue that came up just in the last couple days, so honestly I hadn't had any chance to chase it to ground because I'm busy doing the serial killer looking take after take after tape of videos that we're trying to explain, how to do selections. But anyway, if you guys have any ideas on PDC files, let me know, because realistically, if we want to support them, it's not a big deal. I just want to know that it's a thing that anyone cares about, and if it is, then that's certainly something that we can make happen. For the record, what I'm talking about in particular is, right now there's any number of digital media. There's CBR files, there's PDFs, there's MP4 files, there's M4V files, and so forth, where you can simply name them the same as a comic issue, drag it on top of the issue in ComicBase, and it will appear as a little media icon. At that point, when you click the media icon, all it does really is it launches whatever Windows program you have assigned to handle that type of media. So for us, all we have to do is kind of add it to the list of things that we care about, and as it searches down the title to see if you've got media, it will search for those types of media as well, as opposed to just ignoring them. But let me know if PDCs are interesting to you. If so, we can certainly make that happen. I'm very interested in whether the interface involves anything more than just launch it in a browser or something like that, or if there's something we can do to make that smoother in some way. Another thing I wonder about is anyone interested in getting into the different sound formats? So right now, ComicBase is really handle. It's really there to handle both visual media, movie trailers, interviews with comic creators, things like that. We all have all the sorts of those things in the archive edition right now. But you also can handle written media, so comic books themselves. You could, I showed one week, went down to Fantastic Four, where I've got the first few hundred issues of Fantastic Four in digital comic form. So in addition to knowing that I have the real physical comic books, I can click on them and be reading the individual comic books in digital form. And there have been different archives of, like, say, the Golden Age comic book archive, where it's things that have supposedly lapsed copyright. I can't swear whether it has or not, which you can literally just drag tons and tons of these old digital things into ComicBase and have your own media library ready to go on those. Is it interesting, though, to start moving in things that are just auditory? I'm thinking of things like old radio shows. You could certainly take sound and wrap it in. It's called like an MP4 wrapper, which is to say it looks like a movie file, but it has no video. It only has audio. You certainly could do things like that. But if things like SNDs or .wavs or MP3s, if those are interesting to you, let me know, and we could add them in as well. Honestly, it's not a lot of work for me to make it happen. I just need to know if there's a use case out there that feels real. And if there is, then hey, why not? Okay. Let's see if we got anything else chat-wise. If not, we may actually finish up on time after. All right, so let's see here. Yeah, John says, I'm not going to be reading comics on my watch. I hear you there. Greg says, I hear somewhere that Apple Watch is waterproof so that you can use it while swimming. Previous Apple Watches were water resistant but not waterproof. Don't know how that compares to Fitbit at all. I don't either. Unfortunately, since I moved out of California, I no longer have a swimming pool, so I'm less interested in that use case than I once was. That said, yeah, like I say, I'm thinking about everything you'd ever want to do with comic-y type stuff, whether it's on ComicBase or Atomic Avenue or just, adding things or whatever else. If there's an application that's really interesting from a comic book standpoint, or a comic-based standpoint, yeah, let me know. I think it'd be kind of neat to do some new stuff on that. All right, and Andre says MP3s for audiobooks would be cool. Yeah, can that makes sense to me. Is when you think about the book category. So you say you've got Harry Potter listed amongst your books, but if you wanted to drag in the audiobook of it as well, that might be kind of neat. I am definitely getting a very large Audible collection. At this point, I've probably got a couple hundred books in it, and it's just a big, long, scrolling list in my Audible account. It'd be kind of neat to see, like, for instance, I'm a big Lee Child fan, to see all the Jack Reacher books organized in order by the adventure, in some kind of coherent manner, and then be able to, click and start any one of the stories. That might be a neat thing to do. So, yeah, let me think on that, because that definitely is, it's definitely doable. I just want to be able to show it off in the best possible way. Okay. All right. Another thing while we were talking about new stuff. How do you guys, does anyone out here sell personally, either have a comic store or sell online as well as bricks and mortar? I've gotten a couple of requests for folks to add Shopify integration with ComicBase or Atomic Avenue. I think really it's a ComicBase integration point. The idea is Shopify is a in-person inventory marketplace. It's I don't even know what I would describe as akin to, but it allows you to sell physical items. And the idea would be that you could take your ComicBase inventory and not just post it to Atomic Avenue, but also post it to a Shopify account. So that might be useful for selling through alternate venues. It might be, obviously the one I'm the most sympathetic to is the idea that if I've got they call it a clicks and mortar store, where I sell some things in my store, I sell some things on Atomic Avenue, and I want to keep everything integrated at once, so that when I sell something through my Shopify cash register, it automatically gets pulled out of my ComicBase inventory the same way that got something pulled that sells on Atomic Avenue gets pulled out of your ComicBase inventory, and that you could then refresh both sources. It seems like a reasonable point of integration to me. I've looked at the APIs on it. That's the foo that developers have to go through in order to make things like this happen. It's a little involved. I won't kid you. It'll involve some work. And so I'm interested, are there any folks out there selling in a clicks and mortar type of environment that this would just really make your day? I mean, like in a really powerful way for you? Or is it kind of like a feature for everyone? Let me know. You don't need to be watching the video live right now in the live stream, but if you are watching this later and you're a Shopify advocate, please send email to pbickford@humancomputing.com. Matter of fact, I think I even have... There we go. Yes, that is the address I want. And by the way, once again, I love this little Stream Deck device I've got out on my deck, which can just pull up these little macros to show different things. So that's a thing. Okay. Going back to the questions, and then I think we're getting toward the point where I'm going to start pulling into the end here. All right. Just in case Pete ends early, I post this PSA now. Don't forget we throw on the message boards for the live stream. Absolutely. Xandu Comics says, I'd like to see ComicBase be able to keep track of my statues and maybe sell on Atomic Avenue. We looked into that one, and we kind of pulled away from it. The reason... There were a couple of reasons. I'll just be cards on the table on this one, because as you guys might have guessed, if you could sell more than one type of thing at all, then, once you added books as a separate category, or once you've added magazines as a separate category, adding the next thing is not nearly as hard. I mean, once there's more than one thing you're selling, the next one is only X, I mean, if going from comics to comics plus magazines was this much work, adding in, statues is, this much work. It's still work, but it's not nearly as much. So we did look into that, and it was at one point in the development of ComicBase 2020, which was, as you guys might remember, a 4-year process of getting this thing out the door, because it was a complete rewrite of the whole thing. We had very expansive ideas for what we would be taking on with it, and we kind of whittled it down at the end. 2 major factors at work with that. One was we were just saying, look, would people pay more if we had this feature? Because God knows we're going to spend a lot more time if we add these features in. So what's it going to cost us, and how much extra revenue can we bring in if we go to the expense of doing it? And then the other thing that really was difficult on this one was finding a starting point for the data. So ComicBase was its own starting point for things like magazines and books, because so much of that stuff had found its way into ComicBase. We really just need to excise it out of the main database. But there was also a pretty good idea of how these things fell into series or whether they didn't. The idea of UPCs and ISBNs and so forth. Conditions were at least a known item and so forth. There were resale channels for them. Action comics, action figures are, some of those things are there. Condition, it not only has grades, I've found at least 4 different grading standards that people are, sets of them that they've proposed. Different venues seem to have their own standards at work. There's no big, massive monolith that says, okay, if I say that this thing is like new, or if I give it a numerical grade, there didn't seem to be like a really, really tight feeling amongst the action figure crowd that everyone understood what that grade meant. It would really be something you'd be like kind of making that grade up and trying to make it stick through the force of what you were doing, which I gotta admit made us a little uncomfortable. We have the problem with action figures of the action figure in the box is considered very attractive, and a lot of times what you're grading is the box, not the action figure. And the action figure out of the box is sometimes called just a Lucy or something like that, where it's not nearly as valuable and grading gets weird. So there were a lot of things like that, and then the other problem came is that there wasn't a lot of data we could latch onto that would get us started. So there is no overstreet of action figures that we could make a deal with to get going. The series on them weren't super well defined, so it wasn't like you could start doing the Marvel Selects, and because you did a couple of big series, you were well on your way to defining how to do all the other ones. So it was just daunting to get into, and even beyond that, you get into questions like, so here's my beloved Robot 2000 series right here, which has been sold, these ones are reproductions from Schilling, that they've been sold under at least a dozen different names I can think of, all sorts of different box art, all sorts of different vendors. Okay, we have ideas of how to cope with stuff like that, but it's not an easy problem. By the way, while I'm turning around here, I want to give a shout out here to Carl Teets, who, by the way, just sent me the coolest thing. This is brand new Robbie the Robot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I take it back. It is not. It is the Forbidden Planet robot. So, anyway.
For your convenience, I am monitored to respond to the name Robbie.
Robbie. There we go. Sorry, I stand corrected again. The people who follow Lost in Space and the people who follow Forbidden Planet, they always get into like just absolute wars with each other about that whole thing. I didn't want to be on the wrong side of it, so I punked out when I shouldn't have. Anyway, thank you very much to Carl for sending that to me. That was just the coolest. It takes a lot to make a new, to make me want to clear things off on my robot shelf to make room for a new one. So thank you. That was just the coolest gift. So anyway, props on that. Okay. Let's see. Greg says would be a natural progression. I agree. We're gonna need some help getting going. So I mean, I think the two things that would really help us get going on action figures is a source of data that would get us started, that would be legal for us to attach ourselves onto, and knowing that people would pay more money. And for that, for if we go to the effort, we're going to make the money. And unless that became clearer than it had been before, it's like almost everything else we could think to do with the program seemed like it had a clearer path forward. So that's why we put it off. Now, we didn't really get rid of the idea, and we certainly laid the architecture out to support that sort of thing, but it came off the schedule for a reason, because other things that seemed like they were more of a value add came on. But it's not saying we couldn't revisit, but I need something about that equation to change. So it either needs to be easier to use the data, or I need to have better data that says, oh yeah, if you put this in there, we would totally, be able to, turn it into revenue. So anyway, that's where that is. As you can imagine, there are other collectibles that we had the same kind of discussion about. And yeah, danger, indeed. Okay, so getting toward the end here, I wanted to kind of, I'm gonna, all right, I'm gonna answer one tech question. And then I'm going to defer some of these other ones I got sent in for another time, because they are a little hard to demo, and I want to be able to come up with a good presentation on this. Yeah, maybe if I do come up with a good presentation, maybe I'll find a way to turn them into a tip video after all. But one of them is on moving ComicBase to a new computer, and then the other one is doing freeform reporting of ComicBase of comics with a UPC field. Both these came up as questions this week, and I did want to talk about how to do some of that sort of stuff. The reporting one, though, I may want to hit it later on, because reporting is going to be changing in the not too far away future. In ComicBase, we have some new things planned, and so maybe it's a better video for after we do that stuff. Really quickly, ComicBase on a 32-bit copy of Windows. I'm going to say the short version is don't do it. All right, if you guys understand what I'm even talking about there. So, long ago in the 90s, right, when all the computers had no memory, having 2 or 4 megabytes in your computer was like considered like, man, I got this sucker loaded. And back then, operating systems were what was called 32-bit. So you basically take 2 to the 32nd power, or really the 31st power, and that gives you a number, and it's the biggest number you can have on the operating system for a lot of things. One of them is how much memory you can address. So 2 to the 32nd power gives you a number that's in the realm of about 4 gigabytes, 4096 blah, 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 Now, because sometimes people wanted to be able to have a positive and a negative version of that, you wind up with 2 to the 31st power, not the 32nd power, so you really wind up with 2 megabytes as your limit for these sorts of things. So one of those things that came up is, why is the biggest that an old school ComicBase 2017 and below database, what is the biggest file size you can have for that? 2 gigabytes, and it has everything in the world to do with someone decided that a 32-bit number was big enough to store whatever they were storing there that was impacted with that. All right. for a while now, at least a decade, probably more like 2 decades. We've all been having computers that had at least 4 gigabytes when we bought them, then 8, then 16, then 32, then sometimes I've seen people with, I've seen people with 256 gigabytes somehow loaded into their RAM. I have no idea what kind of custom motherboard that thing was from, but it was crazy when I saw his setup. It was like, is that real? What we're seeing from the system info? And yeah, it was real. Anyway, for a long time, people have decided that a lot of these key metrics, the key thing that you build the operating system on, the numbers that you use to say what's the biggest place in memory can be, the numbers, what's the biggest integer you can have, things like that, that they were going to use 64 bits for that instead of 32. And that gives you a number that is just stupid big. It's to the 64th power. I couldn't even tell you what that number is. It's a bigger number than I'm ever going to have anything of. Not breaths in my body, probably not atoms in the universe. But anyway, it's a damn large number. Anyway, so for a very, very long time, Windows has been available in both 32-bit and 64-bit versions. For none of that time that I can find has anyone who's doing this on anything other than some kind of like special purpose tablet ever had the 32-bit version of Windows installed. It's just, if you have 32-bit Windows, typically you can only address 2 gigabytes of RAM. Sometimes, 4 is a possibility, but even with the 2 gigabytes, some of it gets used for video RAM and so forth. So you really wind up with about 1.5 gigs of usable RAM, by and large, if you're running 32-bit Windows. To my knowledge, Microsoft still plans to keep releasing 32-bit versions of Windows, but you should never have them installed on your machine. One of the reasons you shouldn't have them installed is that Windows 10 just takes a ton of space. Just to run it is going to take a lot. And then .NET, which is the thing on top of Windows that everything like a ComicBase would be built on top of, that takes more. And then you got to load ComicBase. So we came into a really weird situation with a good customer of ours who was running ComicBase in emulation on a machine, and somehow he was just having the worst time loading anything. It was telling him, hey, .NET 4.8 is not installed and so forth. And we're like, we don't understand. We've never seen anything like this. And then we remote onto his machine. We saw that somehow he installed the 32-bit version of Windows. I am just going to say, for the record, don't do this. It's not at this point a supported platform for anything useful unless you're going to just run like Notepad or DigDug on it. Just don't do it. So that is the public service announcement regarding 32-bit Windows. Just don't. 64-bit is really what you want on that one, and we're also well on our way to making so ComicBase itself can become a true 64-bit program. You guys might have seen that ComicBase itself runs only as a 32-bit program, which means ComicBase can only reference 4 gigs of your RAM for itself. Now, granted, your computer is running other programs, so they get to access other things. But you might notice, for instance, that Photoshop can edit just stupidly large, images running in 64-bit. You could literally open up terabyte-wide images if you wanted to. It would be very slow, but you could do it. ComicBase taps out at about 4 gigabytes of use for its own space. Why is this? Come on, we just rewrote the thing from scratch. Why didn't we address this? And the answer is because we needed, in our current version at least, to still be able to open ComicBase 2017 databases to convert them. And the code which converts ComicBase 2017 databases, the code that Windows uses for that, is all 32-bit code. And so we can't be fully 64-bit until we lose the ability to convert old ComicBase 2017 databases. So for a little while, that's where we're going to be on the whole thing. It doesn't really affect any much because honestly, you can do everything you ever want to do in ComicBase with 32 bits. Possible exception of saying, give me a very detailed report of every single comic book in the entire database in one search. If you were to say, display everything in that in one go in the grid, like just show me a list of all 880,000 databases in the grid, I think that would blow memory, but I think anything shy of that will not. So yeah, it's not been a priority, but at some point we would like to convert ComicBase itself over to 64-bit as well. All right. Last bit, I want to wrap up one thing that I've been talking about all summer, and I just want to get it out of the way here. So let me see. Can I get a quick answer from you guys? If I play this right here, are you guys hearing sound? All right. I'm just going to pause it, but just really quick in the chat, can I get a sound or no sound from that one little part of the video? And this is the part where I wait for the delay between chat and when people have actually heard things, because I'm actually living about 17 seconds in the future from you guys. So I'm very much hoping that you guys heard this. I'm hearing nothing from y'all. Anyone? Did we get sound? Even if you didn't get sound, does someone in the chat say you heard it, you didn't hear it? Nothing? Yes, excellent. Wow, okay, that took a while. All right, so guys, this is stupid and it's wonderful. It's called Dave Made a Maze. It's an independent film I got turned on to by the guys over in England, the Zavvi guys. And it is just a goofy movie about a guy who makes a cardboard maze in his living room over a weekend. I'm gonna let the trailer play.
What the?
Hey, baby! Welcome home!
What is this?
I built a labyrinth.
Have you been working on this all weekend?
I'm lost.
It's cardboard.
I know, but it's much bigger on the inside.
I'm going into the maze.
No! I don't want you to get lost. Okay, just ignore me. Do what you're doing. Put some music over this. It'll be a montage. It'll be awesome.
Can we go in the maze now?
Let's go.
Stop! Go!
It is big.
This place is huge.
Okay, I think we're good. Oh.
All right, guys, that's all I'm going to play because I don't know how far YouTube lets you go with copyright strikes on this kind of stuff. But I just want to show you to you that this is the coolest kind of movie you ever used to find at your local Blockbuster when you're like, it's a Saturday night, you want to watch something, and you have no idea what any of these boxes are. Dave Made a Maze. I'd say search it down. It is a really nice throwback to old 1980s movies like The Goonies. Just a wildly inventive take on the whole thing. Yes, this guy built a cardboard maze sort of by accident. It is much bigger on the inside than the outside. And it's also, at some point, he just somehow just got carried away and started building death traps. And yes, and people die in horrible and creative and cardboardy ways. And it's just a wonderful movie. So anyway, check it out if you can. I really dig it. Last thing I would say that is something I like, and let me go ahead, I can find the part where it shows my chyrons. I think I can do this. The Boys, Season 2. This was originally Derek Robertson and Garth Ennis comic book. Very gritty, very dark. The first season it should have been called Homelander. It was, so Homelander is kind of like the superhero, Superman character in the middle there, but he is nothing like Superman. He is a horrible, horrible human being, but done in the best possible way. Very, very creepy. It basically is, imagine that superheroes have become celebrities. They're managed almost like you'd manage, star football players and basketball players. They've got agents and contracts, and they get assigned to territories, and and it's deeply, deeply cynical and really very, very cool. This was my workout gig when I'm working out on the treadmill watching seasons of The Boys. So now you know how I spent my summer. All right, guys. That is going to be about it from me. Thank you so much for attending right now. We're going to do answer more questions on the next live stream. Right now, I am going to give my voice a rest after a day of talking to a camera. Thank you guys so much for joining me here, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.